Thanks for joining us for another episode of Midweek Worship at Two Cities Church. Welcome back, y'all. If you are familiar with our episodes, if you're not familiar, if this is new to you, would you look below me? Because we started doing these middle of the week digital broadcasts actually years ago. And I want you to understand who we are. I want you to understand what this broadcast is about. So if you look in the show notes, the notes to this episode, you see a link to a YouTube video. Would you check that link out? After this is over with, it's a short video, but it will tell you more about our church and more about this broadcast. What we try to do is we try to teach you some things about God, teach you about the Bible, teach you about you. We're actually teaching theology. That's a word that just simply means the study of God. And we're teaching theology in a way that just is very natural, very practical. And we study theological topics. So the topic that we've been talking about for many months now is the doctrine of the church. What is the church? Who are the church? And as we get into the church, we started looking at the mission of the church. This is something that I am wild about. I enjoy talking about the mission of the church. Today, we're going to get a little bit, technical with you, because today what we're going to do is talk about the role of the church in evangelism and discipleship. Now, if you've never heard those two words before, don't worry. I'm going to make it super easy for you to understand. But I do want to put a question out there and to kind of challenge what most people think about these two words in just a few moments. We call this Midweek Worship because we broadcast this thing in the middle of the week. But we call it worship because we're going to study the scriptures. We're going to actually memorize the Bible. We're going to put the Bible into practice. And the word worship really means bowing your soul, bowing your life down, surrendering yourself to God. But a big part of that is also singing your love to King Jesus. So why don't we go ahead and pour our love out to him in one simple song. Pete and Alicia DeVette have recorded this song for you. The words are going to be right there on the screens. And I just want to invite you to sing along. And then after this song, we'll come back and we'll get into some scripture and we'll talk about these two words in just a second. Sing along, will you? When the Bible uses the word evangelist, that word means to herald or to tell the good news. Actually, did you know that angels are evangelists? An evangelist is a messenger from God. And angels are sent on a mission to make an announcement on God's behalf. 2 weeks ago, we started looking at Jesus' mission to the church, and Jesus made every single disciple his messenger. Jesus said for all of us that we were supposed to be his witnesses, starting in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria, and we'll keep doing it until everybody at the ends of the earth has heard it. Did you hear those words? You will be his messenger, his angel, his evangelist. And you'll do it right there in your neighborhood, starting right in your city. And you'll keep doing it until there's no one left on the earth to tell about it. The word mission is the essence of the word missionary. A missionary carries out the mission, does the mission that God has sent people to do. In the strictest terms, according to Acts chapter 1, everybody is a missionary. Everybody is called to start in their neighborhood and to keep being on mission or a missionary until there's no one else left to tell, until God calls you home, or until every single person on the planet has heard about Jesus. Last week, we talked about the church's role in society. What happens when the church gets this wrong? It's a dumpster fire. And the church tries to remove itself from culture and society and run away from society. Well, there's no way that you could accomplish the mission that God left his church on planet Earth to do if you run away from society. Well, today we take this evangelist word, evangelism, the pronouncing or sharing of the good news, and we look at this word in contrast or compared to the word discipleship. Now, disciple does discipleship. If the word disciple doesn't mean anything to you, if you've never heard that word before in your life, it literally means somebody who follows after another with their life. We don't have a whole lot of examples of this in our modern day and age. 150, 200 years ago, if you became a skilled tradesman or if you learned a craft, you learned it from somebody who taught you that craft, and then they put you to work doing that craft, and eventually you became an expert at that craft, and at some point you were expected to teach somebody else that craft. This is where all the smithing came from, goldsmith and blacksmith and all of the other smithing came from, is they actually did discipleship, teaching their craft to somebody else who would teach it to somebody else. Well, the original word disciple in Jesus' day, everyone knew what this meant. It meant you follow after the rabbi, you walk in the rabbi's footsteps, and eventually you live your life like the rabbi that you're following after. In today, there's really not a lot of great examples of that. I've heard people say, well, it's kind of like a student in the classroom. Yes, but no. A student in the classroom is a disciple if that student one day becomes a teacher and has a classroom of their own. I like to use the analogy of an airplane pilot. You see, an airplane pilot is expected to read the books. But reading the books alone is not going to get you your pilot's license. An airplane pilot has to get in an airplane and start flying with somebody who already knows how to fly, and they're going to make sure that you're okay in an airplane by yourself. You're literally being a disciple of the other pilot that's in the airplane with you until you're ready to start flying on your own. And then at some point, when you've been flying well enough and long enough, you start to tell other people how to fly, teach other pilots as well. In Jesus' day, there was no real distinction between following the rabbi and helping other people to follow the rabbi too. In fact, in maybe the simplest, easiest verse in the entire Bible to understand what this looks like, 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1 uses this language, follow me as I follow Christ. That's literally what it means to do discipleship or to be a disciple. helping somebody follow you while you follow Christ, and then they help somebody else to follow them. I struggle with separating these two words and calling evangelism the thing that we do over here, talking to people about Jesus, and calling discipleship the thing that we do over here, teaching somebody to follow Jesus. I struggle with this for Bible reasons. Because when I look at the life of Jesus, I don't see a moment where Jesus was doing evangelism and then he started doing discipleship. In fact, what I see in Jesus looks like nothing but evangelism and discipleship at the same time, and no difference between the two. And if you're wondering, what's this got to do with anything, Jeff? What does this have to do with me? Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because Jesus puts it flat in your face in John chapter 20. I'm going to put a verse on the screens. This is Jesus' words to his disciples. This is Jesus' words to you and I, if you are a genuine follower of his. And I want you to read this one verse out loud with me. I want you to memorize this one verse. It comes from John chapter 20, verse 21. Jesus said to them again, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I also send you." John chapter 20, verse 21. Now, I want to make sure the full weight of this verse hits you like a ton of bricks. This is immediately after Jesus' death and resurrection. He is now walking through walls, and he is now supernaturally, acting, or he's now showing the followers what it looks like to supernaturally be the Son of God. Before this, all they've seen is a man in the flesh, a rabbi who can do miracles. And Jesus meets with them. They're scared. They're not exactly sure what to do next. And in John chapter 20, he meets with them and he gives them instructions. And the instructions that he gives them are super simple and very plain, but also massively significant. Jesus says, "As the Father has sent me, I also send you." The word "as" may be one of the biggest words, those two letters in that whole verse. Just to the same degree, in the same manner, in the same fashion that God sent Jesus to earth, now Jesus is sending you. Now Jesus is sending me to go do the same thing, to go do the same thing the same way, to go do the same thing in the same manner, to the same degree that he has been doing it. And this is what it means to be a disciple. You go pattern your life exactly like Jesus would while he was on earth. You go do the things that Jesus was doing while he was on earth, and you go do them like Jesus was doing them. If Jesus didn't have a hard distinction between today I'm doing evangelism and tomorrow I'm going to do discipleship, then what is the separation between these two words? In fact, I'll put a question for you on the screens. And the question is not supposed to be a trick question. It's actually not even supposed to be a theological conundrum. The question is supposed to help settle in your mind what it looked like when Jesus was just out doing the mission that God sent him to planet Earth to do. Because you've already seen very clearly from John chapter 20, verse 21, whatever it is that Jesus was doing, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So here's the question for you. Where does evangelism end and discipleship begin? Let's say I'm having a conversation with somebody and they're still thinking about Jesus. They're still trying to figure out what they believe about Jesus. They're starting to understand a little bit of who Jesus is. Where exactly do I stop doing evangelism and now start doing discipleship? And I'm going to answer the question for you. I never do this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it on this episode for you. It doesn't. Evangelism is part of discipleship. And when you're making disciples, you are doing evangelism. In fact, you should be starting the discipleship process with somebody who doesn't even know who Jesus is and doesn't know what they believe about Jesus. And at some point along the way, you get a chance to witness to them about who Jesus is and what he's done for you and why he can do that for them too. You are doing evangelism within discipleship, but discipleship is the whole thing. And if you were to ask, what did Jesus do while he was on earth? Well, he made disciples. He actually made more than 12 disciples. But the 12 chosen disciples, he said, you guys will turn this world upside down. All Jesus did while he was on earth is make disciples. And a lot of that was introducing them to faith for the first time. So the separation between evangelism and discipleship, let's stop separating those two. And let's just start doing one thing that has two different aspects of it. The one thing is making disciples, and part of that making disciples is telling somebody about Jesus for the first time. This is the reason the church is still on earth. And I hope you're out there doing that right now. I hope you have somebody who you can look at them in the eyes and say, follow me as I follow Christ. And by the way, why don't they find somebody else that they can say the exact same words to? That's what it means to be a disciple who makes disciples. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you right back here next week as we wrap up this incredibly important topic about the mission of the church. God bless.